I was trying to save a couple of bucks with these speakers. Did it work out? Stay tuned to find out. Hello YouTube, Chris the Frugal Audiophile here. Today I have for you a review of the Braven BRV-Mini. Now just a quick story, one of the very first Bluetooth speakers I ever owned, actually is the first I ever owned, not the first I ever heard, but the first I ever owned was the Braven 700, which was a speaker that I think I purchased somewhere around 2014, maybe 13, and it served me well until I dropped it moving into this house, and then I replaced it with a JBL Flip 2. So I have a bit of a history with Braven, and they were known as kind of one of the better quality Bluetooth speakers back in the day when you had brands such as Creative and the Monster Jam boxes, which were good, but the Jam box in particular cost a lot more. So Braven's still making Bluetooth speakers, and right before you see two of them, the BRV Minis. And so the reason I picked these up was a few years ago, Z Reviews had a video on the mini rigs, and they are little kind of like a cylinder speaker. They're small, they're bigger than these from looking at the relative size of them, and he reviewed those speakers quite well, speaking of their sound quality and their feature set and all that, and just going on and on about them, their build quality, etc. But they are $129 each. So if you wanted a stereo pair, that would be $240 or no, $260. I can't do math. $260, and then you could add a subwoofer for another like $55, making it like almost a $400 speaker system. And my frugality starts to kick in at that point for a Bluetooth speaker. Now, not for a overall 2.1 system, but for a Bluetooth speaker, that's really pushing what I want to spend on something that could get dropped, could be lost or stolen, could break easily. I mean, even if they are a good, rugged pair of Bluetooth speakers, they're still gonna break. And so I have been kind of looking for a set of Bluetooth speakers that I could pair. Now, JBL does have that in their Flip line. I'm sure there are other brands that do, probably the other JBL speakers do as well. And they cost about $70 each. And so I was like, yeah, that's a good choice. And my sister has the Flip 4. I'd like to get one too, then we could pair them, and we'd be good to go. But I found these on sale, less than $50 for the pair here, or somewhere right around there. Actually, no, I think it was less than $50 for the pair here. So I decided to go ahead and pick them up just to see how well they perform and to film a review of the speakers. And so that's kind of a couple of backstories as to why I am doing this review. All right, so before we get into the review portion, let's talk about design and features of these Braven speakers here. I will put up on the screen a list of full specs, and I will just highlight some of those. I'm not gonna go over everything as I'd take a long time, and I will highlight their design and features as we go through here, but not covering everything. So these are a mostly plastic design. There's not a lot of metal on these. I'm sure there are some for the connection points, but not really a lot. And they do have a rubberized bottom, which helps, not only keep them in place, but also isolate them from the surface they're on a bit. They have a cloth grill that goes all the way around them, and their rear port is covered by a rubber gasket there. That's to help with waterproofing. More on that in a little bit. And then they do have a lanyard. You can see it here. I'm holding it up. It's not a very big one, but it gets the job done. If you want to tie it to a backpack or something like that. I don't know why you'd use that. I never use them, but people do. They come in 4 colors, black, gray, red, and blue. I have the black and the red here for you. I did that on purpose. So when we talk about measurements, I'll put them up on the screen, but think of them as being the same size as an 8-ounce can of soda. You've probably seen those little mini cans of soda. And when I picked this up, it feels very similar to like an 8-ounce can of Sprite that you might get at the hospital, or you could buy them in the store, but they reminded me of the hospital. And anyway, that's what it is. It's like a little mini can of soda here. So that gives you kind of a good idea of the size of these guys. All right, so now I'd like to go over some features of these Bluetooth speakers. And the first one is they are Bluetooth 5.0. However, I could not find anywhere on the internet the codecs that they're using, whether it is LDAC or if it's aptX, aptX HD. There is very minimal specs on these speakers, and so I can't tell you that. Maybe you're a better researcher than I am and you can find it, but I was not able to find that information. It does have an aux input, which is handy. More on that in a little bit. And they are charged by USB-C, which is kind of nice because it's a modern connection. We are getting more and more USB-C devices. And it does include a cable in the box. Pretty much it comes with the speaker, the attached lanyard, and the charging cable. That's it, nothing else included. And one cool thing about these, and the reason that I was attracted to them, is because they have what is called wireless stereo pairing. And that's something that the mini rigs did as well. They could do it through a cable, which I heard was more stable, and then they could also do it through a wireless connection between the two of them, and they could stereo pair, and then you could add in a sub, and it'd be a pretty awesome Bluetooth system. Well, these do that in some regard, and so I'm gonna power them on here. Power the other one on, and when I do this, you will hear them pair. First it's going to pair to my phone, then they're going to pair to each other. There you go. They have paired to each other. And that's how it works. And the cool thing is, when you shut them off, all you have to do is press one power button and they both shut off. And now they're both off. So that's pretty snazzy. I do like that. So the wireless pairing is a cool feature. The kicker that is, it doesn't work in aux mode. If I plug an aux cord into one of these speakers, it only plays through one of them, whatever one I'm plugged into. You can get splitters out there that allow you to, split a 3.5 into a left and right, and then have two mono cables. It would be a lot of rigging and a lot of work, but that is an option, I guess, if you wanted to do wired pairing, and that would work, but it'd be a bit of a hassle, and it'd be quite a few cables that you would need. And so how you pair these together is you hold down the play button on one of them, and then and it'll start blinking red, and then you press play on the other one and they will pair up together. And whichever one you pair first becomes the left speaker. So that's why I paired the black speaker first and it becomes black. I got them in red and black to be right and left. It just makes sense to me. And so you have to be sure that whatever one you want to be left is the one that you pair first, and it pairs to your phone, and then they pair to each other. And also you can call up your phone assistant on these using the play button. You can, of course, play and pause, and then you can hold down the volume button to skip tracks. So that's kind of handy. And the volume button, it does control the volume on your phone, not just of the speakers. So that's to keep in mind. That's all it controls. It controls the volume button or the volume level on your phone. It does not control the actual speaker volume. So keep that in mind. But just pressing it down, I think it's for 3 seconds, it skips tracks. The nice thing about these speakers is that they are IPX7 rated. That means that they are drop and fall resistant, as well as they can be submerged in water for a certain amount of time. You can look up the specs on that, but they can be dropped in water and submerged without causing any damage to them. Actually, the manual says that these speakers float. That actually is kind of one of their big selling points, is that they will float in water without damaging the speaker. So that's another handy feature. It makes them good for a poolside party. And these speakers do have a speakerphone built into them. So you can not only talk to your assistant, but you can also make phone calls with them. However, I tried it. The phone call quality is not very good at all. It sounds very muffled. So it's probably not something you want to do a lot. And the person on the other line said I sounded muffled and unnatural. So just keep that in mind. All right, so now let's talk about the assignment for these speakers. And that is to be a affordable competitor to the mini rigs. As I said, the mini rig version 1 is $139 each, and the cost on these is anywhere from $18 to $30 depending on what color you pick. The black is almost always on sale for $18, and then the red I think is $30. Right now the gray is on sale for $28. So keep that in mind. So you're talking like, what's that? A quarter the price of a mini rig, just a little bit over that. Maybe a third the price if you want to be a little bit more technical, but and that is for 2 speakers, and so that's a lot cheaper than one of those. And does it compete? Is it worth even considering these speakers? So let's talk about what these speakers got right. I am going to give them props for their construction. They feel durable, they have a decent weight to them, they have some nice materials with that rubber bottom and the fabric material around them here. There is a lot of plastic, but that's kind of to be expected. I'm pretty sure that's true for a lot of speakers at this price range. Most Bluetooth speakers are plastic. So they do feel well constructed. And they also have a nice feature set with the Bluetooth 5.0, not sure the codec, the stereo pairing, the auxiliary jack, the USB-C charging, the waterproof feature, and the drop resistance. All those things make a nice set of features, especially at this price. When Braven first came out, a lot of those features were unheard of at this price point. And so you have to keep that in mind, what you are getting for your money here. I really like the stereo pairing feature, that it does it wirelessly and quite smoothly. So what did they get wrong? Well, the first thing is going to be, I'm going to take off some points for the manual. It is very brief and incomplete. There is not really enough information there. I could not find a list of specs in the manual. I had to kind of go on the internet and dig to find those specs. Basically, it tells you how to power them on, how to pair them to your phone, how to pair them to each other, kind of some of those general operation features, as well as the safety warnings. So that's basically all the manual has, is only a few short pages. And I even went online and I downloaded the manual, and either whether it's the one that's included or the online manual, the digital manual, it was the same thing. Very incomplete. So Braven, you got to do better there. And the second area where I'm going to take off a lot of points on these speakers is sound quality. First of all, voices just do not sound natural. Now, they don't sound awful. They sound okay, but they're just not natural. When I compare it to kind of my reference Bluetooth speaker here, this is the JBL Flip 2. Now, not the newest speaker, but this one actually does sound better. It is clearer and the vocals just sound natural. And even though these speakers are able to be separated out, I still feel like the JBL here has better sound staging, a bigger sound stage. Now, not maybe better imaging, but definitely a better sound stage. So I had to take off some points for that, for the vocal clarity, as well as relatively no bass response. So I will play a bass sweep here for you.
10 Hertz, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, 150, 160, 170, 180, 190, 200.
And you could probably hear in that sweep, if you might have to put on your headphones just to get a better idea. Your phone speaker's not going to get it, but you probably could hear in that sweep that there's really no bass up until about 90 hertz. And even then, it doesn't really come on until 100 hertz. To me, that's just not quite low enough. Now, I recognize that these are a small speaker and that's asking a lot of them to really go below 100 hertz or even, below 90 hertz. But for me, I want more bass. And for what they are, they're okay. But with that not fantastic sound quality, especially in the vocal range, to add on that relatively minimal amounts of bass, it's just not going to do it for me, okay? That's just the breaks. I want a little bit more out of them. I've not heard the mini rigs, but on the sound demos, I can tell that they go lower. I realize that's a sound demo, but still, I can tell that they go they go lower. So I took off quite a bit of points there. On the final little knock I have to give them is dialogue sound delay. So when I type on my phone, I can tell that when I press a key and the key noise is delayed. And so I'm like, okay, if this is delayed, what's it going to be like to watch a video? So I loaded up a YouTube video, and yes, I could see a very obvious delay between the movement of the speaker's mouth and the audio coming out of these speakers. So they're not going to be great for using with watching, Netflix, Hulu, YouTube, whatever it may be, on your phone or your iPad or other tablet device because of that delay. So I took off some more points there. And I also took off some points for the poor manual, but also unpublished codecs. I could not find any specifications on the codecs of these Bluetooth speakers, what actually they are using when they stream from your phone. So I took off some points there. Maybe you could find them, as I said before, but it wasn't easy to find if it is available, so I took off some points. So what am I going to give these speakers for a Frugality grade? And these speakers are going to get a C. I don't think that they are a cheap competitor to the mini rig speakers. I think that their sound quality is just too poor for them to compete. Maybe I am picky, and I will say that this is really more of a subjective grade than an objective grade, because objectively maybe they would be fine for someone else, but for me, myself, with my requirements for sound quality, what I'm looking for in a set of stereo Bluetooth speakers, these just do not fit the bill. And so I gave them a C for their Frugality grade. So what's my recommendation with the Braven BRV-Mini speakers? Well, if you want a set of stereo Bluetooth speakers and you have a $50 budget, this is probably your best option. Actually, it's probably one of your only options, but it's not a bad option. Like, they're not terrible. They're just not great. They just don't meet my standards. But if I had to choose, between this and just using my phone speakers or tablet speakers, I'd choose these speakers. All right, so I would definitely go with the Braven BRV Minis there. The nice thing is they are small and compact, so they're going to be portable. The only bad side is there's no included case with them, so you're going to have to figure out something there to transport them around. But they're not great, but they're not awful. So if it fits what you're looking for and that's your budget, you can get the black and the gray for less than $50. Go for it. But I would suggest, especially if you don't need stereo separation, a lot of stereo separation, and let's face it, when we are traveling, we want something compact, we just want it to be simple and easy. That's not a necessity. And really, some of the Bluetooth speaker bars, boxes, or whatever you want to call them, they do have decent stereo sound. I'd suggest a JBL Flip 4 because it's a great price. It's about $78-80 depending on sales and whatnot, and it's going to sound much better than this. My sister has one, so I have heard it and I do like it. It's a great speaker. Now, a little bit more expensive, so if you want to do something a little bit less than that, check out the Soundcore speakers from Anchor. I've never been disappointed with one of those Soundcore speakers from what I've heard from them, but I have owned a couple of them or had friends and family that have owned them, and they have several different options depending on waterproofing and size and features, but check those out as well. I think that they would offer better sound quality than these speakers and cost around about the same price. I know with the newer JBLs, you can pair them. I think from the JBL Flip on up, you can pair them together. So you could buy two of those for $40 or $50 and have a nice set of stereo Bluetooth speakers to take along with you. They're not going to be quite as compact as these, but at the same time, they're also going to sound better. So consider that as well when you're looking for Bluetooth speakers. So I thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this kind of content, please subscribe to my channel. Also, check out my Patreon and buy me a cup of coffee. I will leave links in the description down below. And remember, frugal doesn't necessarily mean cheap.